10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
Witchcraft is the old religion, a religion which existed thousands of years before Christianity. It is a fertility cult. We worship a great life source. Call it a divine creator, if you will.
Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. So says the Bible, so said an all-powerful church. 9 million died as the most terrible human passions masqueraded as religion. For 3 centuries, from 1448, reasoning man tried to stamp out the beliefs of his forefathers. He failed. Witchcraft is with us today. Farmer, lecturer, executive, witches all. And Diana, Pembrokeshire farm wife.
Modern science makes no difference to the practice of witchcraft. Witchcraft is a belief, an ancient belief, deep in the human mind. Nothing can destroy it.
The simplest and the purest forms, in my experience, could be found in North Cardiganshire, particularly to a lesser extent in the south of the county, and fairly extensively over Carmarthenshire, and particularly in the north part of Pembrokeshire. You find it you find it as the traditional form, the old type of magic used in these areas extensively, and used sometimes for good, and sometimes you'd find the more evil aspect of it brought out. People don't know about it, it isn't very general, but we who live, or have lived, in these parts, we have found it and experienced a good deal of it. Now, it isn't excessively harmful, except in extreme cases, and oftentimes it is known to be used for good purposes. The evil eye, for instance, has been known to be used there, and I've actually seen this thing used, and I've seen its effects, for instance, on animals such as pigs and then cows. They can be bewitched by the power of the evil eye. It is a baleful glance thrown towards the object, which is generally an object of hate, and it causes, well, some misfortune, usually some kind of wasting illness. I've known of Welsh blacks in North Cardiganshire bewitched, and the owner, the farmer, finding them in the morning flat out on his field, he sends for the veterinary surgeon, and he can't do much about it. Well, now, the owner immediately comes to the conclusion that his cattle are bewitched, so he goes across the mountain to Llangerig, where there is a dyn hysbys, a consigliwr or conjurer, and he tells him his trouble, and this man, he can find out who is bewitching the animals, and he can also give a specific for the cure. And I've seen this work, this specific. He gives the farmer a piece of paper with an incantation in Latin written upon it, and the farmer takes it to the field and draws it across the cow's back from head to tail, that way, and then across the shoulders in the form of a cross. And quite shortly the animal will rise up again and go grazing quite naturally.
But there is nothing natural about the evil eye, and there doesn't seem to be anything natural about the scope of Diana's powers.
You could be very sick, you know. Your milk could turn sour. Your pig could die in the cot. Anything could happen.
How do you exercise this strange power you possess?
Cast your eye. It's all thought is in the mind.
An ordinary housewife, going about her work from day to day, she may have the power, and an occasion may arise when she exercises it. If someone does something to her that she doesn't like, insults her or something of that kind, she will immediately exercise this power. And it could be the evil eye, that perhaps is the most common, and the incantation, the speaking of a curse against that person. And also there is another very interesting form of magic, the wax image. Now, that is known, it's a very secretive thing, but an image is made of the object of the person's aversion or hate, made usually of ordinary wax, in the hours of darkness when most decent people have gone to bed. The practitioner will carve this thing or mold this thing from ordinary wax, plasticine will do, as near as possible to the features and form of the object of his or her aversion.
The theory is one of sympathetic magic between witch and victim. The effigy is the link is strengthened when the victim is made aware of what could happen and believes in the power of the witch. Question: what is the nature of this power?
I don't think any nature at all. You know you've got the power is within you. You've got a heart. It doesn't manifest itself. It doesn't sort of pop out through anywhere or anything. You just know you've got it. You can't sort of say, look, it's here, I've got it. It's not like that.
This woman could not or would not define her powers. In front of Wales Today cameras, she was equally reticent about what she could accomplish by witchcraft.
Well, you can be for bad, you can be for good. They think of witches dancing on the little pot, all 30 of them at the very time. But it's not so. It isn't so, you know. It's a power within you. I mean, I can't explain any more than that. How can you say you've got a deal when you haven't got it? I mean, how can you say you've got it and you can't grasp it? Got it? Do you know what I mean? No, it's a nice feeling to have. But and I can't explain it, it's no good. I can't think to say. But I know I've got it when I've got it.
The Reverend W.D. Williams, a lifelong student of witchcraft, is more explicit. He has first-hand experience of witchcraft in West Wales.
It is more of the white magic, as we call it, in Pembrokeshire than the black magic. And in Pembrokeshire, both north and south, it takes the form of charming for various diseases, mainly skin diseases such as bog ringworm and iris-syphilis and various other small, trivial skin diseases. But at the present moment, I think that this charming, this power, is used to cure shingles and jaundice.
As you heard earlier, North Cardiganshire from time to time throws up examples of witchcraft of a far more sinister nature. Aberystwyth is the hub, the focal point of numerous remote communities in the Cardiganshire Hills. It's also the home of the Cambrian News, a newspaper with a thorough understanding of the community it serves. Our investigation started with Ken Hankey, senior sub-editor on the paper, who by now takes witchcraft stories in his stride.
Witchcraft is, without a doubt, practiced in this area. In the hills, in the small villages and hamlets behind Aberystwyth, I would say it's rife. In 16 years of journalism in Aberystwyth and Cardiganshire, I've come across many instances of witchcraft. Such instances as a man who was seriously injured and burned about the face, and he was quite sceptical about witchcraft or white magic, and he was pressed by his friends to go and see an exponent of the art, and he eventually went to see this man, and returned to the hospital the next day, and the doctors were amazed at the recovery of his burns on his face. He had been told that he would be scarred for life, but when the doctors took the bandages off, there was not a scar on his face at all. I think that if you went out with your cameras, you'd just burn up a lot of petrol and oil and tyres rushing around the countryside, getting nowhere. They say, I've been here 16 years and we've never had a name down on paper with paper and pencil. I don't know how you'll do it with cameras.
In the event, Wales Today drew a blank in this area. But the tradition of the wise man or Dean Huspis practicing alone still persists. The banding together in covens has never been a feature of witchcraft in Wales, but with the evolution of the philosophy surrounding its mysteries, witchcraft assumes a different guise, that of a religion.
It means that we worship the very source of life itself, the life that is responsible for the whole universe. This is first and foremost a mother goddess cult. As you realize, the mother is the much-loved figure who also gives much love. The father inspires respect, affection, but mother is the really important figure in family life. And when you come to think, the world is just one large family, so that the mother loves even her lowliest living things.
Witchcraft today is a relic of the pagan beliefs of pre-Christian days. It is essentially a dualistic religion. This dualism extends to an awareness of male and female, light and dark, harmony and discord, the passive and the creative, good and evil. Tonight is Midsummer's Eve, one of the 4 great Sabbats in the witches' calendar. Tonight the covens, each with its 13 members, will invoke the gods to witness their rites.
We make a circle and purify the circle. Everyone who comes into it is also purified. Then we open with a little rite to the god and goddess. I summon, stir, and call ye up, O ye mighty ones of the north, to guard our circle and witness our rites.
We witness a ritual rich in symbolism, the outer manifestation of a religion which attracts people from all walks of life, teacher, shopkeeper, student, doctor, laborer, and housewife, all devotees, all part of what we find to be a vital and growing religion. A religion as profound and rich, or as banal and empty, as its worshippers would have it be.
Eco, eco, zomelek, eco, ganinek, eco, erida, eco, erek, eco, zomelek, eco, ganinek, eco, erida, eco, erek, eco, zomelek, eco, ganinek, eco, erida! After this, we do work for people who want help, and we conclude the ceremony with a cakes and wine ceremony. The circle is used to keep our power within so that none of it escapes. Also, in the initiation ceremony, it rather signifies the mother's womb. We also use the asene for the same purpose. This is what is known as the true witch's tool. The wand. I don't think in the old days that the wand was used like this, in this form. I think it was probably a hazel rod used for divining purposes, because as you realize, water was very important for the part it played in fertility. Now, of course, we only use this in certain rituals. The cords again are used in the initiation ceremony. Once again, you can see the symbol of the cord tying the child to its mother, strengthening this idea of rebirth. This little figure, yes, she symbolizes the great mother goddess.
A sophisticated fertility cult it may well be, but even so, the modern witch still casts her spells.
The work we do is to form a cone of power, a power from within ourselves. It's mass concentration, really, all having the same mental picture, the same intent in mind, and one's mind's all directed on this. On one occasion, we had a husband and wife. The wife was very distressed because her husband was very friendly with his secretary, a little too friendly, and we were asked if we could help. So we kept a picture in mind of the husband and wife being brought together again, with nothing between. Within a few weeks, the secretary was off sick from work, and she was off so long that her boss was forced to replace her. So in this way, the end was achieved. All was well between them again. In this case, we were doing constructive work to bring the husband and wife together. We didn't say in what way they were to be brought together, the fact that it was because the secretary became ill and had to be replaced, I think is really only a side issue.
Witchcraft was clearly misinterpreted during the Middle Ages and was an excuse for many obscene excesses. Today it is thought of as a sensational newspaper headline. Kabbalistic signs in churchyards and staid rural deans exorcising the scene of a black mass are far removed from the real witchcraft of today.
I feel that a number of these things were probably done by irresponsible young people who'd been reading rather sensational books with a mixture of witchcraft and black magic in them, and they didn't do it with any sense of desecration in their mind, I'm quite sure, just for a bit of a laugh.
These witches are not anti-Christian. Indeed, they were found to be extremely tolerant of other religions. Tolerance is not extended to them. Theirs is a fertility cult, and consequently much misunderstood. Male and female alternate in their rites, and the supreme aim is the fusion of the male and female deity, the making whole of the great life force. The highly secret rites you now see have never before been televised.
We are naked in our rights as a sign of freedom and equality. You see, in these days of mass-produced clothes, class distinction is of very little clarity. But you can take it that years and years ago, the maid-of-all work was very distinct as from the squire's lady. So that this taking off clothes leaves everybody in the same state. I think it shows our democratic principles. We do have some quite unpleasant letters, such as one young man who wrote to us because he said he was interested in flagellation. Well, I very quickly put him in his place and suggested that what he wanted was a good psychiatrist.
This is the initiation ceremony, much of which we were not allowed to film. The initiate has now been accepted as a member of the coven. The coven, the symbol of being, of organization, and of grace.
Eco, Erida. Eco, Everett. Eco, Zomalak. Eco, Ganinas. Eco, Erida. Eco, Everett. Eco, Zomalak. Eco, Ganinas. Eco, Erida.
I've seen no indications in my experience of any organization at all. Not in those days, not about 20 or 25 years ago when I was up there. They worked individually. But now I understand that covens are being formed for some reason or other in this country. But I have no experience at all of covens in North Gardens. I would attribute the fact that witchcraft is not organized in covens in Wales because the practitioners would not know anything about it, living usually in very remote country districts and living primitive lives. They would be aware that they had the power themselves handed down to them from generation to generation, but I don't believe they had any idea, any knowledge at all of such a thing as an organized coven. That is more or less a modern development of the witches' cult. I would say personally that Aleister Crowley would have given the fillip to it. It provides a thrill, people meeting together, and they have the impression that they are doing something which is very, very thrilling and out of the ordinary, and possibly they don't know with what a dangerous power or force they are dealing or playing with today. We'll see more of it probably. It's just in its infancy now, but it might develop in this country. I rather think it is now into such a state that it might be very, very dangerous.
Traditional Welsh witchcraft seems far removed from the startling cult which Wales today investigated. But there is a link. Nest is a Pembrokeshire girl and a member of the coven. She refuses to be identified, but she will recruit and will talk of her beliefs to those who are interested.
The youth of Lacedaemon and Sparta made due sacrifice. Whenever you have need of anything, once in the month, and better it be if the moon be full, ye shall meet together in some secret place, and worship the spirit of me, who am the queen of all witcheries.